Hello, everyone. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. Thank you for tuning in. I often think that the federal deficit and the federal debt, people get a little confused because the numbers are in the trillions and it's really kind of hard to contemplate trillions. So, what I wanted to do is break down our federal spending and our debt based on the individual, how you would do your budget and how I would do my budget. And it kind of puts it in perspective some of the problems we are seeing. Um, and a lot of these numbers are based off usdebtclock.org. And that's based off the spending, the percentage of spending in 2019, because I know the last couple of years have been pretty wild, out of control spending. But it should at least put into perspective for the individual why we are screwed. Because if you ran your budget like this, you would think, hey, something needs to change. And yet, unfortunately, when the federal government runs the budget like this, voters keep voting for it. So uh, let's take a look at this budget I put together. And again, these numbers are broken down for the individual, meaning what the individual pays in on income tax. So if you look at the paycheck, let's assume this is how much you pay in taxes. This is per person. It varies per person, obviously, but if you break down the population, each taxpayer per person is spending this much for the federal government, $13,984. So if that's the government's paycheck from you, let's see how they're spending that money. Approximately $3,938 is going to defense. That's a lot. And that might be something we can definitely cut down on. They spend about $537 on education, Department of Education. And that's not to include, that's not just education from federal level, that is just education from the federal level. There's also state spending on education. So that's pretty significant. Here's a huge chunk. They spend about $5,000, 5,012 to be exact, of that paycheck on healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare specifically. So, you could want universal healthcare, and that could be a good thing. But you should ask yourself, how do we pay for it? Because there are trade offs, there are no certainties, or there are no solutions, there are only trade offs. So, we already spend a significant amount from each taxpayer on healthcare, and what do we get out of it? That could be a whole nother discussion. They spend about $1,432 on welfare and protection, just like police, fire, and stuff. The state spends as well, but they spend $179. They spend $358 on transportation, general government, uh, salaries and stuff like that, $179. Miscellaneous, this would be like Department of Agriculture and all the other millions of departments that the government has. They spend $358. And right now, we haven't spent all the money yet. But here's the last two ticket items. And here's what I want you guys to think about. So, and then again, this is based off 2019 percentages. So this one, the interest. So they take in about $13,984 per person in the United States. Unfortunately, this number, that per person number, each person owes about $94,000 per person in the United States on our federal debt. So they're taking in about 13, each person owes 94. Obviously, that's a problem. But since we're not actually paying that debt off, we're paying interest only, that interest payment on that $94,000 per person is about $1,432. That interest payment, unfortunately for you and for me, is going up because as interest rates rise and inflation rises, the government wants or is selling debt to buyers, whether that be a pension or foreign governments. And those foreign governments want to beat the rate of inflation, or at least they want a higher interest rate. So as we refinance that debt, just like if you were to refinance your home at a higher interest rate, you're going to pay more. on interest, even though it's the exact same house, even though it's the exact same debt we already have. When we refinance it, that interest payment goes up. But again, this is only the 2019 numbers. So 1,432 as a percentage of this number up here is what we spent in 2019. And then here's the last one, Social Security. And this is going to get bigger, but as of 2019 percentages, we spend about $4,475. So you notice we're in a deficit. We got a problem. Of the $13,984 per citizen we take in, we overspend by $3,950. Not cosmic stuff. But if you were to run your budget like this, you might think, something's going to happen. Either I'm going to stop getting credit. I can't keep taking on credit cards. If we're in the government's case, they can't keep selling treasuries, or no one wants to buy them at least. Or I'm going to have to cut expenses. So if you have a friend out there who may disagree with you on politics, which is fine. I like disagreeing on politics, but I always ask people, can we at least agree? Can we at least agree? Let's say you have a ideology. I have an ideology. I have things I wish the government would do. Maybe you do. But we have to work within the confines of math. And if you look at that budget, you think this would not work for the individual, and it's not going to work for the federal government. And at this point, it's potentially too far gone. So how do we get out of it? We can't just have two sides of the aisle going, "Hey, I'm not going to cut that because that's on my list of things that I must have." The other aisle saying, "I'm not going to cut that because that's on my list of things I must have." And then we just in perpetuity go into inflation because politicians will pay for it through printing, unfortunately. But if you have a friend like that, talk through this budget with them, see what they think, see how they would solve it, and let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.